There are women who are like controlled fires. They light up their homes, but burn on the inside when no one's watching. And you think their flame has died out, that they're faithful, that they're content. They're not. A married woman can be more unfaithful than a single one, not with her body, with her fantasies, with her emotions, with that wild need to feel wanted by a man who isn't her husband. And if you know how to read her mind, not her lips, her mind, you can become that secret she'll never confess, but will never be able to let go of. Today, I'm going to reveal the 8 behaviors that make a married woman seek you out, think about you, fear you, and still not walk away. The last one is the most dangerous, because it doesn't just attract her, it wakes her up. I'm Celia, woman, psychologist, and therapist. And if a woman has ever called you friend, but looked at you like something more, this video isn't a theory, it's your story, and it's time. Has a married woman ever held your gaze, and instead of respect, you felt danger? It wasn't your imagination, it was a sign, one that few men dare to see. Because in that exchange of looks, there was no routine, no loyalty, no marital tenderness. There was something heavier, darker, more real, restrained desire. And if you know how to hold her gaze without looking away, that moment could be the beginning of something no ring can stop. You're at the first point of this video, and we're going to talk about the look that disconnects her from her marriage. Because everything starts there. A woman can be 10 years into a relationship, have kids, commitments, a set routine. But if you hold her gaze with confidence, not lust, presence, if your eyes don't flinch or justify themselves, something inside her cracks, not out of weakness, but out of desire. Because she's not used to a man speaking to her with his eyes without asking for anything, without begging, without trying to convince her, just looking at her for what she is, a woman who can still be set on fire, even if she's married. In my practice, I've seen this more times than I dare to count. Ordinary men without model bodies or charming speeches, achieving something her husband hadn't in years, making her feel like a woman again. How? With a look, not sweet talk, not cheesy gestures, just one steady, guilt-free gaze. Because when a woman has spent years being seen as a mom, as a functional wife, as the manager of the household, and suddenly a man looks at her like she's the only woman in the room, her inner world starts to crack. Desire wakes up even if her mind denies it. This isn't magic, it's deep feminine psychology. Because a man's gaze reveals his energy, and you can't fake that. You either have direction, or you have hunger, and she knows the difference. If your gaze comes from lack, from need, she'll shut you down. But if it comes from presence, she'll come back to find it again, even if she doesn't say it, even if she hides it. Because a married woman can resist a body, but she can't resist a gaze that gives her back the desire she lost. This isn't a trick, it's a way of being in the world. If you don't train yourself to inhabit your own body with dignity, your gaze will always ask for permission. And a woman doesn't give herself to the one who asks. She gives herself, even if only in her imagination, to the one who radiates. So next time a married woman holds your gaze for more than 3 seconds, don't look away, don't speak, don't try to win her over. Just look at her, and let what her husband turned off start to burn again. If a woman held your gaze, and you didn't look away, you've already taken the first step. But now comes the hardest part, holding on to the mystery, because it's not enough to stir her once. What really gets under her skin isn't the initial spark, it's the constant uncertainty. And that's where most men fall apart. They confuse connection with trust and rush to fill the silence with words, promises, or pointless compliments. They don't understand that what truly seduces a married woman isn't what you say, it's what you don't say. We've reached the second key point of this video, the silence that makes her addicted. An average man, when he feels there's chemistry with a woman, starts talking. He thinks he has to entertain her, explain himself, confess his intentions. Big mistake, because the female mind doesn't fall for what's obvious. It gets entangled in what's implied, in what you leave unsaid, in what her imagination finishes on its own. That's where the power of masculine silence lies. It's not absence, it's direction. It's not shyness, it's emotional strategy. A steady, dense silence, full of presence, can do more than 1,000 sweet words, because when you stop talking too much, she starts thinking too much, and those thoughts turn into obsession. From a psychological standpoint, there's a clear reason for this. The female brain is interpretative, not direct. What it doesn't understand, it analyzes. What isn't explained, it fantasizes. If you give her everything already digested, she loses interest. But if you offer pauses, empty spaces, gray areas, she starts imagining you, and no real man can compete with the one she builds in her head. That's why the men who create obsession aren't the ones who offer security. They're the ones who create doubt. Emotional doubt, sensual doubt, existential doubt, not in a playful way, in a powerful, grounded way, like a poem you don't quite understand, but you feel deeply. The Stoics knew this. Speaking less isn't just a moral virtue, it's a form of power, because the man who needs to explain everything is seeking validation, and the one who seeks validation has already lost. But the man who knows who he is doesn't persuade. He radiates. He doesn't shout. He commands. And emotionally, that's magnetic. Because a woman trapped in a relationship without mystery, without risk, without tension, finds something irresistible in that masculine silence, space to project, to imagine, to burn in her mind, even if nothing's happened yet. So listen closely. If you've already caught her gaze, don't rush. Don't tell her your life story. Don't chase her with words. Create pauses. Look, breathe, speak little, but with weight. And when she comes closer looking for more, don't give her everything. Give her just enough, because a married woman doesn't need another emotional husband. She needs a mystery, one she can't solve, one that makes her think of you while lying next to her husband, wondering why she can't get you out of her head. And all of that, my friend, is built in silence, a silence that isn't empty, it's power. You already know this. The gaze activates her, the silence entangles her. But there's something else, something that can make a married woman cross the line without you asking, without her admitting it, without anyone noticing. It's a gesture, a phrase, a code that doesn't flatter her, but cuts right through her. We've reached the third point of this video, and this is where things start to shift. We're talking about the compliment she's not expecting, but that hits her deep, the one that doesn't make her feel pretty, but dangerous. Most men repeat what she's heard 1,000 times. You look beautiful. That looks great on you. You have a lovely smile. That doesn't seduce her. It bores her, because it doesn't spark anything new. It doesn't reveal who you are. It just shows you as another obedient man trying to be liked. But when you change the script, when instead of complimenting the obvious, you touch on the forbidden, the ambiguous, the visceral, you wake her up. And that's where real attraction begins. Not when you make her feel comfortable, but when you make her feel seen in the parts she doesn't even dare to show. Let me be clear. The compliment that cuts through her has nothing to do with her body, but with what that body unconsciously transmits. You don't say, "I love your lips." You say, "There's something about the way you speak that's hard to ignore." You don't say, "I like your perfume." You say, "That scent of yours, it lingers even after you're gone." You're not being vulgar, you're being symbolic. You're using reverse psychology. You make her feel dangerous without her knowing why. And when a woman feels dangerous, she becomes addicted to you, because you're giving her back a part of herself her husband shut down, the part that provokes, that stirs, that vibrates. This isn't a cheap trick, it's emotional strategy. It's reading feminine desire from the subconscious, because she doesn't want to know she's beautiful. She wants to know she can still drive a man wild with a single move, that her energy is still alive, that her fire still burns. And if you're the only one who shows her that without saying it outright, without lowering yourself, without exaggerating, then you begin to occupy a space that isn't visible, but is deeply felt. A space where she can be someone else, where she doesn't have to be a mom, a wife, or a model professional, just a woman. And that, my friend, is priceless. Now, before we dive into the next points, which only get more intense, I want to invite you to do something simple. If this content is hitting you, if you've ever said the things every man says, and today you understand why they didn't work, hit that like button and subscribe. And tell me where you're watching from. What's coming next? Isn't more of the same. It's what no other man dares to use. And the final lesson, I promise you, will be the one that draws the line between being forgettable and unforgettable. If you understood what I said earlier, then you already know words don't matter if they don't come from a place of real presence. But this is where many men stumble, even after learning how to look and speak differently. Because they think a couple of well-placed phrases are enough, that if today she blushed or looked at them differently, they've already won. Big mistake, because attraction isn't sustained by technique, it's sustained by energy, and that energy can't be faked, it's transmitted. We've reached the fourth point of this video, presence that excites her without even touching her. This is where the lukewarm ones fall, the ones who think seduction is about what you say, what you do. But a married woman doesn't risk her stability for a nice guy. She risks it for a man who reaches a deep place in her body without laying a hand on her, who changes her heartbeat just by walking into a room. And you don't get that by acting. You get it by being. If you're not fully present in yourself, if you don't inhabit your body with strength, if you don't radiate direction, clarity, and contain tension, she won't feel you. She might hear you. She might smile at you, but she won't desire you. The most destructive mistake is becoming a verbal seducer, but an absent man, the one who knows what to say, how to move, how to create the moment, but lacks emotional weight. And she feels it. She feels she's in front of someone who's mimicking her, not mastering her, because female desire is deeply sensory, but also energetic. And if you walk into a room full of insecurity, neediness, or anxiety, she'll sense it. It's in the air. It's felt without a word. A woman doesn't get aroused just by what she sees. She gets aroused by what she perceives. And if you don't emit tension, firmness, and direction, no matter how well you speak, you'll just be another one. The mental trap is thinking seduction is in the external gesture when it's really in the internal state. That's why so many men don't understand why, even when they do everything right, she treats them like a friend, like a confidant. Likeable, yes, but never dangerous, because they lack presence, because they don't fill the space with their body, because they don't walk like they know where they're going, because they don't breathe like men who choose themselves before needing to be chosen. A married woman won't break her vows for someone who entertains her, but she might betray everything for a man who, without touching her, makes her feel naked. And that man isn't the one who improvises clever lines. He's the one who walks in, observes, stays silent, and transmits. Because he's whole, because he doesn't need anything, because his presence weighs more than any promise. And if you can't do that, if you can't hold your emotional ground without seeking approval, she'll know. She might not say it, but she won't cross the line. And you'll stay stuck in the place where all the clueless men end up. The man who pleases, but doesn't ignite. A woman can feel your gaze, get lost in your silence, vibrate with your presence, and still not take the next step. Why? Because she's still testing you. Because somewhere in the back of her mind, she's still waiting to see if you're real, or just another man who folds when she pushes your limit. And if you don't have a clear, firm, unshakable limit, it doesn't matter how much masculine energy you radiate, you'll fall anyway. We've reached the fifth point of this video, the boundary that makes her submissive. This is where the truth comes out. Most men aren't rejected because of a lack of desire, but because of a lack of respect. And a woman can only truly desire someone she respects. The problem is, you think setting boundaries means arguing, explaining, shouting, or justifying yourself. No, a real boundary isn't discussed. It's set with actions, with silence, with calmly walking away when she crosses a line you're not willing to bend on. Because the man who doesn't set boundaries ends up being her emotional therapist, while someone else makes her tremble inside. Do you know what happens when you set a boundary with a married woman who's playing the seduction game? She gets thrown off because she's used to men who worship her, who follow her, who don't dare say, "That's enough." But when you, without raising your voice, without drama, without begging, say, "Not with me. That's not how I do things. I don't play halfway." You don't just confront her, you wake her up, because you show her that there's something in you that's not up for grabs, that you can want her without depending on her, that you can connect without lowering yourself. And right there, she melts, because she realizes she can't control you. And to the feminine mind, that's not frustration, that's fire. The mistake is thinking that drawing a line will push her away, that it'll ruin the connection, that you'll come off as cold. No. What ruins the connection is a lack of integrity. When you say you value yourself, but tolerate what breaks you down. When you act like a man, but crawl like an emotional pet. And that sooner or later kills the desire. Because she may play the seduction game, but if she sees that you don't have a clear line between what you accept and what you don't, she loses respect. And when respect goes, desire follows. How do you reverse this? With emotional firmness, with the conviction that you don't need a woman's approval to feel valuable, that your energy doesn't exist to feed her ego, that if she crosses a line, flirting with others in front of you, playing with your emotions, dismissing your presence, you don't let it slide. Not because it hurts you, but because you won't tolerate it. Because you're not here to be an option, you're here to be a decision. And you only become that when you set that boundary with calm, without threats, without long explanations, but with a clarity that hits harder than any speech. So hear me clearly. If today a married woman looks at you differently, texts you, seeks you out, and you get excited, be careful. Don't get excited, observe, and when the moment comes, because it will, when she tests you, challenges you, tempts you to lose yourself, don't fall. Look at her, and say with your silence what very few men can hold. I can want you, and still say no. And if you can hold that, you won't be just another one. You'll be the one she doesn't dare forget, because you were the only one who showed her that real desire doesn't crawl, it honors itself. If you were able to set the boundary, you're no longer just any man. But be careful, because now she's going to do something subtler and more dangerous. She's going to start coming closer again, not with explicit words, not with obvious gestures, with hints, with a more constant presence, with that ambiguous game where it seems like yes, but she never quite crosses the line. And that's where most men fall, because they confuse the game with real surrender. And they don't realize they're walking into an emotional trap disguised as an opportunity. We're at the 6th point of this video, the emotional danger that pulls her out of her routine. Picture this, you're at a cafe. She shows up, smiles at you, touches your arm for no reason, says something that means nothing, but suggests everything. And you, who thought setting the boundary was the end of the game, start to open up again. You lower your guard, you think now she's finally ready for something real. Mistake. What she's doing isn't surrendering, it's testing. It's making sure she still has the power. It's checking if your boundary was solid or just a performance. And if you don't see it, you fall back into the same trap, seduced by her need to know she can still throw you off balance. Most men don't get this. They think when a woman becomes warmer, more attentive, more playful, she's coming back. She's not coming back. She's regulating her routine. She's escaping her cage without opening the door. She's breathing for a moment, only to go back to her role as the perfect wife. And you, if you're not clear-headed, become part of that escape. You become her emotional oxygen, her pressure valve, her controlled danger. She needs you to feel alive, but she doesn't want you in her life. Does it hurt to hear that? Good, because it should hurt enough to wake you up. You're not here to be the man who soothes a trapped woman. You're here to be the one who refuses that role. The one who says no to being someone's emotional danger, just because she doesn't want to let go of anything, but also doesn't want to stay still. Because if you play that game, if you settle for being her release, her spark, her secret thrill, you'll end up drained, confused, and emotionally used. You'll feel like everything's building, but nothing ever lands. Like everything's buzzing, but nothing is real. This isn't theory, it's pure psychology. A woman's mind, when trapped in a relationship that no longer excites her, looks for stimulation, but not always to change her life. Sometimes just so she doesn't go crazy. And if you become that stimulation, you'll be walking a tightrope. Sometimes you'll be her everything, sometimes her nothing. Sometimes she'll reach out. Sometimes she'll disappear. Because you're not a man, you're her escape. And no real man deserves to be just that. So remember this, if a woman seeks you out just to feel alive, you need to be alive enough not to fall. Don't play the antidote. Don't become her drug. Because while you're getting your hopes up, she's just regulating her routine. And when she returns to her comfort zone, you'll be left outside, empty, confused, and with the bitter feeling of having been just a story she never dared to live. Not truly, not with you. If you understood the previous point, you know you can't be her temporary escape. Because the man who agrees to be her way out ends up forgotten when he's no longer needed. But there's something deeper, something that, if you don't see it, will turn you into an emotional puppet, even when you think you're winning. We've reached the 7th point of this video, the secret she never says. But that consumes her. Because yes, she might have a husband, she might have kids, she might have a well-built life. But if you manage to plant yourself in her most intimate fantasy, she won't be able to get you out of her head. Even if she doesn't say it, even if she never admits it, even if she never crosses the line. She'll think about you. She'll dream of you. She'll touch her husband, thinking about your gaze. Because in her inner world, you've already taken up space. And for the female psyche, that's more powerful than any physical contact. But be careful. This isn't for the vain. This isn't about inflating your ego. It's about understanding that if you've gotten to that place, the part of her mind where she keeps what can't be spoken, then you have a responsibility. Not the responsibility to take advantage, not to play games, the responsibility to decide if you want to stay there or let go. Because that secret she keeps doesn't just consume her, it consumes you too, if you're not strong. Because living in the fantasy of a woman who's not willing to choose you is living halfway. And you weren't made for that. Many men stay in that place. They know she desires them, that she looks for them, that something inside her stirs. But they don't dare ask for clarity, to say, if you're not going to take the step, don't use me to keep your desire alive while pretending a life that no longer fulfills you. And so they remain there, trapped, half present, half wanted, half men, like a scent you can feel, but never see, like a story that ignites, but never burns. Today you have to decide whether you'll keep being her secret, whether you'll settle for living in her mind, but never in her life. Because if you do, don't complain later. Don't cry when she goes back to her old life. Don't ask why she didn't choose you. Don't make excuses because you chose that role, because you decided to be unforgettable, but invisible. And that, my friend, isn't power. It's self-deception. The man who truly transforms his life doesn't settle for crumbs of desire. He doesn't settle for what a woman doesn't dare to live. He demands clarity. He demands commitment. And if it's not there, he walks away without resentment, without drama, but with dignity. Because he knows he wasn't born to be an erotic memory in someone's mind. He was born to be presence, real, strong, unshakable. So ask yourself right now, do you want to keep being her secret? Or will you become the man who doesn't need to be wanted in silence? Because he makes himself wanted out loud, with actions, with gaze, with presence. The answer isn't in her, it's in you. It's always been in you. And now is the time to decide, because a woman can fantasize about you 1,000 times, but if you keep waiting, you'll end up being just that, a nice thought. Nothing more. If you've made it this far, you've already grasped the core message. You weren't made to live in the mind of a woman who doesn't dare to choose you. You weren't made to be the hidden fire in a half-lived story. You were made to be full presence. But there's still one step left, because even if you've got the energy, the gaze, the boundaries, the clarity, if you don't understand the masculine code that pulls her out of her social script, you're still going to lose. Because she might desire you, respect you, even dream of you. But she'll stay trapped in her role. Unless you're the one who pulls her out, without words, without speeches, just through the way you move through the world. What does that mean? That most women are stuck in a role: the good wife, the model mother, the respectable professional, everything in order, everything under control. But inside, they're dying, because that script dims them, cages them, makes them predictable. And when a man shows up who doesn't fit that script, one who doesn't need her approval, who doesn't respond like the rest, who doesn't conform, who refuses to be molded, something inside her breaks. Because that man represents what she can't be, but what she can desire, and that's where the chaos begins. If you want to be that man, you need to stop living like a background actor. You have to break out of the script. You can't respond like everyone else. You can't repeat lines, tactics, or behaviors she's already seen 100 times. You have to speak through silence, stand firm without aggression, show yourself without explaining, be wild without losing control, because that's what really pulls her out of her routine. Not a young body, not a clever line. A man who doesn't bend, who isn't for sale, who doesn't ask permission to be who he is. And it's not about pretending to be different, it's about being different, being so grounded in yourself that everything you do carries weight, purpose, direction, so that every gesture, a look, a pause, a timely retreat, speaks louder than 100 texts from someone else. Because you don't compete, you don't chase, you don't seduce from lack, you seduce from fullness, from the abundance of someone who has already chosen himself. And that, believe me, can't be faked. Want a married woman to take a risk for you? Then make her world feel too small when you enter it. Not because you promise her more, but because you are more presence, more truth, more direction. And that's something you build, day by day, decision by decision. Not for her, for you. Because if you don't live a life that shatters her role, if you're not the man who radiates something she's never had, then you'll just be another episode, not her internal breaking point. Start today, not with big changes, with small decisions that reflect who you are without asking permission. Speak less, observe more, don't react, respond with clarity. Don't follow the script, write your own. Because only the man who breaks himself out of the mold can break a woman out of hers. And right there, that's where the story begins. The one that's never told, but that she never forgets. If you've made it this far, you're not just anyone, because most can't handle hearing this. Most want quick fixes, pretty phrases, effortless solutions, but you stayed until the end. You listened to every word, every uncomfortable truth, every blow that didn't come wrapped in sweetness. And that, my friend, puts you in a different place. Because now you can't say you didn't know. Now you have a choice. Keep being the man women forget, or become the one not even a married woman dares to ignore. Drop a clear comment right now, I am wisdom. And tell me which country you're watching from, because this channel has no borders. It has men who've fallen, who've been used, ignored, betrayed, but who are no longer willing to live on their knees. I'm Celia, psychologist, therapist, a woman who's been hearing for over 20 years what wives don't dare to tell their husbands. And this is your house of wisdom. We're not here to cry. We're here to wake up, to reclaim the desire, respect, and leadership you lost when you became the man who gives everything, but no longer chooses himself. Subscribe, because if this video spoke to you, what's coming next will transform you. Share this with that friend who doesn't understand why his woman treats him like a shadow, while she dreams of someone else. And don't leave yet. Watch the videos on screen. One of them will make you uncomfortable. The other will strip you bare inside. Choose the one that shakes you most. Because right there is the truth you need to hear most.